EXO debuted on April 8, 2012 under SM Entertainment as a 12-member group divided into two promotional units. EXO-K, comprising of Suho, Baekhyun, Chanyeol, Do, Kai, and Sehun, promoted in South Korea in Korean. EXO-M, comprising of Sumin, Lay, Chen, Kris, Luhan, and Tao, promoted simultaneously in China in Mandarin. The structure was created by SM Entertainment's founder Lee Soo-man as a double market strategy designed to break the group into both the Korean and Chinese entertainment industry at the same time. Their debut single, Mama, was released on April 8, 2012, and the group quickly started seeing success early because of their affiliation with the Big Three. By June 2013, they had released their first full studio album, EXO-EXO, which sold over 1 million copies, making them the first Korean act in 12 years to achieve that figure with a single album. Their repackaged version, featuring the single Growl, became the Song of the Year at the Melon Music Awards. Between 2013 and 2018, EXO were the dominant group in K-pop by almost every available measure. They won 5 consecutive Album of the Year awards at the Mama Awards.
EXO! Union Pay Album of the Year. The winner goes to EXO!
Asian Music Awards Union Pay Album of the Year. EXO!
EXO.
2 consecutive Artist of the Year awards at the Melon Music Awards, and were named the most powerful celebrities in South Korea by Forbes Korea for 2015 and 2016, remaining in the top 5 of that list from 2014 through 2018. In April 2018, Forbes described EXO as one of the only 2 artists worldwide, alongside BTS, that dramatically overperformed on social media, exceeding the reach of Beyoncé, Justin Bieber, and Taylor Swift. They sold millions of albums too. In 2017, they sold over 2 million copies, and in 2018, their peak year, they sold over 2.23 million copies. Their 5th studio album, Don't Mess Up My Tempo, in 2018, became their highest charting album on the US Billboard 200, debuting at number 23. Their repackaged Love Shot produced their biggest hit and remains their most streamed and most recognized song globally. EXO was regarded as one of the biggest K-pop groups back then. But what went wrong? How did they fall from grace so horrendously that their downfall is regarded as the worst in K-pop? The destruction of EXO's original structure began before they had even reached their peak. In May 2014, while the group was mid-promotion for their EP Overdose, Kris filed a lawsuit against SM Entertainment seeking to terminate his contract. He publicly stated that the company had treated him like a machine part or as an object of control rather than presenting a vision as an entertainer. He said that his contracts were unfair and that SM had neglected his health, including a reported heart condition. He stopped all group activities immediately. 5 months later, in October 2014, Luhan also filed for termination. Luhan made allegations that SM had treated EXO-K and EXO-M differently from the start, stating that EXO-K received active promotional support, while EXO-M received no promotions and no financial backing. In August 2015, Tao became the third Chinese member to seek contract termination due to unfair contract terms, discrimination, and inadequate compensation. His father had publicly stated that SM had forced Tao to continue working through a series of physical injuries without allowing proper recovery. SM countersued and won when courts found that Tao had received an advance payment and failed to repay it within the agreed timeline. His legal dispute with SM continued across multiple jurisdictions for years, with Tao winning in Chinese courts in 2016, losing in Seoul in 2017, and winning again in China in 2018. Kris and Luhan formally left the group on July 21, 2016, with Tao officially departing on March 15, 2018. All three retained contractual obligations to SM until 2022, restricting their ability to work in Korea and Japan through other labels. The loss of 3 of the group's 12 members within 14 months effectively ended the dual unit model. EXO-M ceased to exist and function. The group moved on from the departures of the Chinese members and continued as 9 members, and their commercial output through 2018 remained strong enough that the damage appeared manageable. But it was not manageable in one specific aspect. The exit of the members revealed a pattern of contractual disputes between SM and its artists that would come back at a much larger scale over a decade later. The message that the Chinese member exit sent is that SM's contract structures were a constant source of issues rather than a single case, was a message the industry largely took note of and moved on without really doing anything. After leaving EXO in 2014, Kris rebuilt himself into one of the most commercially active celebrities in China, with a career spanning music, film, and brand endorsements. That career collapsed entirely in 2021. In June of that year, beauty influencer Du Meizhu publicly accused Kris of luring women with false promises of entertainment opportunities, then sexually assaulting them. Multiple other women came forward. Kris was formally arrested on August 16, 2021. On November 25, 2022, the Chaoyang District People's Court convicted him of assaulting 3 intoxicated women in his home between November and December 2020, sentencing him to 11 years and 10 months for that charge, and an additional 1 year and 10 months for a separate charge of assembling a crowd to engage in sexual promiscuity. He was also fined the equivalent of approximately $84 million for tax evasion. Kris filed an appeal which was rejected in November 2023, with the court finding that the evidence was solid and sufficient and that the original conviction and sentencing were correct. He is currently serving a 13-year prison sentence and will be deported from China after completing it. Kris had not been a member of EXO for 7 years by the time of his sentencing, but as one of the group's original founding members, his criminal conviction became and remains attached to EXO's name in the public records. The fact that EXO's former Chinese-Canadian leader is now a convicted rapist, serving time in a Chinese prison, is not something that can be separated from the broader narrative, and means that any retrospective look at EXO's history will inevitably have to acknowledge it. EXO's commercial dominance did not end because of controversies alone. It ended partly because the landscape of K-pop music underwent a fundamental transformation between 2017 and 2020, and EXO were not positioned to move with it. BTS, who had been building a global audience since 2015, broke into Western mainstream consciousness in a way no Korean act had done before. The international appetite for K-pop that BTS created, and which groups like Blackpink, Twice, Stray Kids and more subsequently capitalized on, was an appetite that EXO were structurally unable to feed at the critical moment it emerged. Rather than losing popularity outright, EXO did not grow alongside K-pop's global expansion, and despite their name being well known, they were not a group that newer K-pop fans could actively follow due to the lack of consistent activities and the military enlistment. SM Entertainment's response to this shift made the situation worse. SM created Super M in 2019, a supergroup that included EXO members Baekhyun and Kai, alongside members from NCT 127, SHINee, and WAVY. Super M was explicitly marketed at the American market, debuting with a US press tour, a performance on Good Morning America, and a #1 album on the Billboard 200. It was, in effect, SM cannibalizing EXO's most internationally recognized members to build a new product. While EXO were losing ground internationally, two separate domestic controversies in 2020 damaged what remained of their standing in the Korean market. In January 2020, member Chen announced through a handwritten letter that he was getting married to a non-celebrity girlfriend who was pregnant with his child. A faction of Korean fans responded by holding a silent protest outside SM Entertainment's headquarters, carrying placards reading, "There isn't Chen in a future for us," and a fan community formally demanded his removal from the group, stating his decision was a selfish choice that shows no respect for the group. The intensity of the reaction showed the deeper transactional nature of the idol-fan relationship in Korea, where a significant segment of the fan base invests emotionally on the implicit premise that artists remain publicly single. Chen stayed in the group, but the controversy permanently impacted on his popularity in Korea. His subsequent comeback album, Arcadia, sold only 13,000 copies in its first week, compared to 79,000 copies sold during the first week of his previous solo release. He did not recover his domestic market position. In 2023, he drew further criticism when he incorporated Don't Go, a 2013 song conceived as a dedicated fan song, through a live-streamed performance at his wedding, which netizens and fans widely interpreted as a disregard for the song's original meaning and the fan base it was meant for. In October 2020, a second controversy struck when an anonymous person claiming to be Chanyeol's girlfriend of 3 years posted detailed allegations on her social media that he had cheated on her with more than 10 women, including members of other K-pop groups. The accuser stated that she had later discovered he had engaged with girl group members, flight attendants, and others throughout their relationship, and that his fans and she were the only ones kept unaware of this behavior. SM Entertainment, which typically responds aggressively to false claims with immediate legal statements, issued no official statement on the matter. Chanyeol's brand partnership with Prada, who had named him their first Korean global ambassador, was withdrawn almost immediately after the controversy broke. Chanyeol stopped posting on social media. Several months later, he wrote a letter to fans expressing apology for causing them concern, without directly addressing the allegations. SM eventually filed legal action against specific users spreading what they described as false rumors, but no defamation case was filed against the original poster. The matter was never formally resolved, and Chanyeol's popularity in Korea didn't recover. Two controversies in the same calendar year, each damaging a different member's reputation, and each chipping away at the fandom's sense of cohesion, added to the group's already deteriorating career. South Korean law mandates that all able-bodied male citizens complete military service, and EXO's 8 Korean members were subject to that requirement. The enlistment were spread across an extraordinary long window. Seungmin served from May 2019 to December 2020. D.O. from July 2019 to January 2021, Suho from May 2020 to February 2022, Chen from October 2020 to April 2022, Chanyeol from March 2021 to September 2022, Baekhyun from May 2021 to February 2023, Kai from May 2023 to February 2025, and Sehun from December 2023 to September 2025. Lei as a Chinese national did not serve. The practical result of this schedule was that from 2019 through late 2025, EXO as a functioning 9-member group did not exist at any single point in time. When some members were finishing service, others were entering it. Their album sales data tells the story plainly. In 2018, EXO sold 2.23 million albums, their highest annual figure. By 2019, as enlistment began, that number fell to 880,000. In 2020, the year two members were simultaneously in service and two controversies shook the group's public image, they sold just 79,000 copies across the entire year. In 2022, a year without a group release, the figure was 25,000. In 2023, they released their album, Exist, with the title track, Cream Soda. It featured 8 members of EXO, with Kai being absent due to military service. The album sold over 2 million copies and was proof that EXO still had little fandom support left. Plus, K-pop was still peaking in 2023, so they had a little boost from that. After the failures of their previous albums like Don't Fight the Feeling and Obsession, the performance of Exist was great in comparison. Even accounting for the fact that 2021 and 2023 saw partial recoveries when new music was released, those recovery figures were built on the back of a dedicated but shrinking fanbase rather than any genuine re-entry into mainstream popularity. The streaming numbers proved this even more. EXO's last track to reach the top 5 on South Korean digital charts was Tempo in 2018. Their subsequent releases performed well within the fandom, but were not breaking into the general public in the way their earlier work had. The fourth generation of K-pop rose during precisely the year EXO were absent. For a young listener discovering K-pop in 2021 or 2022, EXO were a legacy name, something the older sibling had posters of, not an active group to follow or a fandom to join. The pipeline of new fans dried up, and without new fans, the existing fanbase aged out gradually or on stand to stan newer groups. In November 2023, D.O. departed SM Entertainment after his contract expired, signing with a smaller agency called Company Susu for his solo activities, while confirming he would continue participating in EXO group work. In June 2023, the subunit EXO CBX that contained members Baekhyun, Chen, and Sumin had collectively moved to terminate their SM contracts, citing mistreatment and lack of financial transparency. After 19 days of dispute, a settlement was reached. Baekhyun established a new agency called INB 100 in January 2024, and Chen and Sumin joined him there. The 3 members retained their group contract with SM to avoid triggering a disbandment, meaning EXO activities would remain under SM while their solo and CBX activities operated under INB 100. The arrangement broke down within 6 months. INB 100 held a press conference in June 2024, alleging that SM was collecting 10% of the trio's revenue from individual activities rather than the 5.5% commission rate agreed upon in the settlement. SM had maintained from the onset that the 10% rate was what CBX had agreed to pay in exchange for their early contract termination. SM filed a lawsuit against all 3 members for contract enforcement. The following day, Baekhyun, Chen, and Sumin filed their own lawsuit against SM over profit distribution and separately filed a criminal complaint against two SM executives on charges of fraud, violation of South Korea's Aggravated Punishment of Specific Economic Crimes Act. The legal campaign by EXO CBX failed on every front it pursued. The courts, police, and administrative bodies consistently found no evidence of SM engaging in illegal or deceptive practices. The police declined to indict the SM executives, and the prosecutor's office dismissed the criminal complaint for insufficient evidence. The trio had also requested 13 years of EXO accounting data from the courts, a request that was dismissed as overly broad and described by the Seoul Eastern District Court as a means of psychologically pressuring SM. The Korea Fair Trade Commission rejected their unfair contract claims, and the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism found no actionable wrongdoings by SM. In total, EXO-CBX lost 6 separate legal or administrative challenges. Having lost every legal avenue, Baekhyun, Chen, and Sumin were left contractually tied to SM for group activities while having an irreparable broken relationship with the company. When SM announced EXO's return in late 2025, the consequences were made fully public. IMB 100 disclosed that SM had first approached them in July 2025 about a potential reunion comeback. That negotiations had continued through September, and that EXO-CBX had accepted all of SM's proposed conditions in order to participate in a full group return by the end of the year. INB 100 claimed that SM then proceeded without scheduling a final meeting, announced the comeback without the 3 members, and removed all mentions and images of Baekhyun, Chen, and Sumin from the group's official social media accounts. On October 27, 2025, SM confirmed the group would hold a fan meeting titled EXOverse and release their 8th studio album, Reverse, in early 2026 with a 6-member lineup of Suho, Chanyeol, Do, Kai, Sehun, and Lee. It marked the first time in EXO's history that the label had not simply listed members as inactive or on hiatus, but had actively erased them from the group's official identity. By 2026, EXO's story is no longer one of the top K-pop groups, but of a group trying and struggling to preserve its legacy as the 3rd generation slowly fades away. EXO released their 8th studio album, Reverse, on January 19, 2026, containing 9 tracks, led by the title single, Crown. The album was a commercial failure, with them going from selling millions to barely cracking 200,000 sales. The title track failed to enter Melon's top 50 daily chart, debuting at around 90 and dropping off soon after. They went from performing in stadiums to arenas inside South Korea, their own home country where they were once the biggest boy group. It was promoted as a 5-member release, as Lay was ultimately listed as absent due to unavoidable circumstances, in addition to the already excluded Baekhyun, Chen, and Sumin. 14 years after debuting as 12 members, with the ambition of conquering both Korea and China simultaneously, EXO in April 2026 is 5 active members, releasing music under a name shared by 9 people who no longer operate as a unit. As of right now, what's left of the group comprises of them constantly shading and mocking each other, while some members are battling possible blacklisting and death with their companies and SM included. That is a full picture of where they stand today.